Honda just posted a shocking 76% plunge in operating profit, while the entire US motorcycle market crashed by 10.6% in the first quarter of 2025. The worst start in a decade. But here's what Honda's corporate PR machine doesn't want you to know. While their motorcycle sales are hitting record highs globally, American riders are getting completely screwed by a perfect storm that's about to destroy everything you love about motorcycling. And if you own any motorcycle made after 2022, what I'm about to reveal could cost you thousands in lost value. Let's start with the numbers that should terrify every motorcycle enthusiast in America. The US motorcycle market showed a devastating 10.6% decline in the first quarter of 2025, with only 108,888 units sold. The worst start in the last decade. That's not just a bad quarter. That's a complete collapse of American motorcycle culture happening in real time. But here's where it gets really ugly. While most major European and US motorcycle manufacturers reported slow sales in 2024, Honda's response has been to completely abandon the American rider in favor of global markets that actually buy motorcycles. Honda hit record sales globally in 2024 with 19.6 million motorcycles sold worldwide, up 6% from the previous year. But here in America, we're getting the shaft. And it's not just Honda. The motorcycle industry faces its worst crisis in decades, with over 60,000 unsold bikes sitting in US dealerships for nearly 300 days. I'm talking about brand new motorcycles that nobody wants to buy because the entire system has gone completely insane. Here's what's really happening, and why Honda's 76% profit plunge is just the beginning of a motorcycle apocalypse that's going to hit American riders like a freight train. First, let's talk about the pricing disaster that's killing the motorcycle dream for regular Americans. The average motorcycle price has surged over 40% since 2020. Remember when you could buy a decent Honda Shadow for $6,000 and ride it for 100,000 miles? Those days are dead and buried. Entry-level motorcycles that used to be affordable for working-class Americans are now priced like luxury cars. And Honda's response to this crisis? Double down on expensive, high-margin bikes that nobody can afford while shipping their reliable, affordable production to Southeast Asia. They're literally pricing out the very customers who built their American reputation. But wait, it gets worse. Total new motorcycle sales in the United States were down 5.4% in the first quarter of 2024 compared to 2023. And 2025 is shaping up to be even more catastrophic. Makers of expensive motorcycles such as KTM, Harley-Davidson, and Indian have reported slower sales, while manufacturers of smaller motorcycles aren't as challenged. You know what that means? The motorcycle industry is splitting into two worlds: cheap commuter scooters for people who don't really want to ride, and overpriced luxury toys for rich weekend warriors. The middle ground where real motorcycle enthusiasts used to live? Gone. And Honda, the company that used to own that middle ground, is now chasing profits in markets where people buy motorcycles as basic transportation, not as a lifestyle. Honda sold around 18.7 million motorcycles worldwide in fiscal 2024, hitting record sales of 19.6 million globally. But how many of those were sold to American riders who actually give a damn about motorcycle culture? Almost none. Here's the part that should really make you angry. While Honda's motorcycle business achieved record-high sales volume and operating profit globally, their automobile business saw major drops, mainly in China and Southeast Asia. So Honda's making record profits on motorcycles, but they're using that money to prop up their failing car business instead of investing in American riders. They're literally taking money from motorcycle sales and flushing it down the toilet, trying to compete with Toyota and General Motors. Meanwhile, American motorcycle dealers are stuck with inventory they can't move and customers who can't afford the bikes they actually want. Now, let's dive into the dealer crisis that's destroying motorcycle shops across America. At Harley-Davidson, for example, worldwide dealer inventory was 35,000 units at the end of the third quarter in 2022 and was 60,000 units at the end of Q3 2024. That's a 71% increase in unsold inventory sitting on dealer floors, collecting dust, and racking up financing charges. And it's not just Harley. Honda dealers across the country are reporting the same nightmare scenario. Showrooms packed with 2023 and 2024 models that nobody wants to buy at current prices, while manufacturers keep shipping more inventory that dealers can't afford to stock. I talked to 3 Honda dealers off the record, and they all told me the same story. Honda corporate is pressuring them to take more inventory while customers are walking away from $15,000 entry-level bikes that used to cost $8,000. One dealer in Texas told me he's got $2.3 million in Honda inventory that's been sitting for over 180 days. $2.3 million of motorcycles collecting dust because Honda priced them out of reach for regular Americans. If you're getting frustrated hearing this, hit that subscribe button, because what I'm about to show you next proves that this crisis is about to get much, much worse. Now, let's talk about the real reason Honda doesn't care about American motorcycle riders anymore. It's not about manufacturing costs or supply chains. It's about something way more fundamental. American riders don't buy enough motorcycles to matter in Honda's global strategy. Think about it. Honda sold around 459,000 motorcycles to customers in North America in 2024, an increase of 22,000 units from the previous year. That sounds decent until you realize that Honda sold 19.6 million motorcycles globally in 2024. Do the math. North American sales represent less than 2.5% of Honda's global motorcycle business, less than 2.5%. We're a rounding error in Honda's spreadsheet. Meanwhile, Honda's selling millions of motorcycles to people in Asia who use them to get to work. Not because they love the freedom of the open road. These aren't motorcycle enthusiasts. They're commuters buying the cheapest transportation they can find. And Honda's building their entire business model around those customers, not around American riders who actually care about quality, reliability, and the riding experience. Here's what this means for you right now. Honda doesn't need to build motorcycles that American riders want, because American riders aren't buying enough motorcycles to justify the investment. They can make more money selling basic transportation to people who will never join a riding group, never tour cross-country, never feel the connection between man and machine that makes motorcycling special. But it gets even worse. The motorcycle dealership and repair industry revenue declined at a compound annual growth rate of 0.6% between 2020 and 2025. The industry is undergoing what experts call a once-in-a-generation correction that requires leaner operations, more cautious pricing, and fundamental reassessment of production volumes. Translation: the motorcycle industry is admitting they built too many bikes for a market that doesn't exist anymore. And guess who's getting screwed by this correction? American riders who are watching their motorcycle values collapse, while manufacturers cut production and dealers desperately try to move inventory nobody wants. Motorcycle dealer inventories are returning to normal, and prices, though easing, are still high. It may be neither a buyer's nor a seller's market. Translation: if you own a motorcycle right now, you're about to watch its value evaporate. And if you're thinking about buying one, you might want to wait, because prices are about to crash even harder. But here's the part that really shows how disconnected Honda has become from American motorcycle culture. Honda made organizational changes effective April 1st, 2024, to further accelerate the transformation toward electrification business. They're restructuring their entire company around electric vehicles, while American riders are telling them, "We want reliable, affordable motorcycles." Honda's response to the motorcycle market crisis? Invest even more heavily in electric cars that compete with Tesla, instead of building the motorcycles that American riders actually want to buy. This is corporate insanity at its finest. Honda has the most trusted name in motorcycling, a loyal customer base that's been supporting them for decades, and proven manufacturing capabilities in America. And they're throwing it all away to chase electric car trends that may never materialize. Now let's talk about what this supply chain madness is doing to motorcycle owners right now. Remember when Honda meant reliability? When you could get parts for any Honda motorcycle at any dealer in America? Those days are over. American Honda Motor suffered severe inventory droughts during the pandemic and semiconductor crisis, but it has emerged in 2023 with redesigned core products and an easing of production challenges. But here's what they're not telling you: the supply chain recovery only applies to their car business. Honda motorcycle parts availability is still a disaster. Try finding brake pads for a 2019 CBR 600RR. 6-week backorder. Need a fuel pump for a 2021 Goldwing? Good luck. Air filter for a 2020 Shadow? Discontinued. Try the aftermarket. Honda used to maintain parts inventory for motorcycles going back 20 years. Now they're discontinuing parts for bikes that are less than 5 years old because they don't want to support American motorcycle riders anymore. And here's the really infuriating part. While Honda is making record profits globally and investing billions in electric car development, they're telling American motorcycle owners that they can't afford to keep parts in stock. It's not about money, it's about priorities. And American motorcycle riders clearly aren't a priority for Honda anymore. Let's talk about what this means for motorcycle values. NPA has further reported that the trend of high prices of used motorcycles will remain stable in April and May 2024, but that stability is about to crash hard as the reality of oversupply hits the market. Here's what's really happening in the used motorcycle market. Dealers are sitting on massive inventories of new bikes they can't sell, which means they're not buying used bikes for their lots. Private sellers are competing with desperate dealers who are offering massive discounts just to move inventory. And financing has become so expensive that fewer people can afford to buy motorcycles at any price. The result? Motorcycle values are entering free fall, and Honda owners are getting hit the hardest because everyone knows Honda is abandoning the American market. I've seen 2022 Goldwings that sold for $28,000, new now listed for $19,000 with no buyers. CBR 600RRs that were $12,000 motorcycles are sitting unsold at $8,500. These aren't just depreciation curves. This is value destruction happening in real time. And if you financed your Honda at the inflated prices of 2022 and 2023, you're probably underwater by $5,000 to $10,000 right now. Honda took your loyalty and turned it into financial disaster. But here's what makes me really angry about Honda's betrayal of American riders. This isn't happening because Honda is struggling financially. Honda motorcycles' global sales keep momentum. After a strike of 4 consecutive growing years, in 2024 sales reached a new all-time record with 19.6 million sales globally, up 6.0% from the previous year. They're making more money from motorcycles than ever before in their history. They just don't want to share any of that success with American riders. Honda could invest in American manufacturing. They could keep parts in stock. They could build motorcycles that American riders can afford. They could support the dealer network that made them successful in America. They choose not to do any of these things because American riders don't matter to their global strategy. Now let's examine the long-term damage this is doing to motorcycle culture in America. Salespeople linger idly, and online inquiries have halved. Motorcycle dealerships that used to be gathering places for riders are turning into ghost towns. And it's not just about sales. When motorcycle dealerships fail, entire communities lose their connection to motorcycle culture. Local riding groups dissolve. Maintenance knowledge disappears. The next generation of riders never gets introduced to motorcycling because there's nowhere for them to learn and grow. Honda isn't just abandoning American riders. They're actively participating in the destruction of American motorcycle culture. Think about what motorcycling meant to your generation. Freedom, adventure, the open road. A community of people who understood that riding wasn't just transportation. It was a way of life. Honda motorcycles were part of that culture. They were the reliable partner that let you focus on the ride instead of worrying about breaking down. That's all gone now. Honda has turned motorcycling from a passion into a spreadsheet optimization problem. They've replaced craftsmanship with cost-cutting. They've substituted global volume for local loyalty. And the saddest part? They're doing it during the biggest motorcycle market crisis in decades, when American riders need reliable, affordable motorcycles more than ever. Here's what Honda executives don't understand about American motorcycle culture. We don't buy motorcycles just because they're cheap. We buy them because they connect us to something larger than ourselves. We buy them because they represent values like self-reliance, adventure, and freedom. When Honda abandons those values to chase global market trends, they're not just losing customers. They're destroying the very thing that made Honda motorcycles special in the first place. But you know what? Honda's loss is going to be other companies' gain. While Honda destroys their motorcycle legacy, brands like Triumph, Ducati, and even some of the smaller manufacturers are stepping up to serve the riders Honda is abandoning. These companies understand that American riders aren't just looking for cheap transportation. We're looking for motorcycles that reflect our values, support our communities, and earn our loyalty through performance and reliability. Honda used to be one of those companies. They chose not to be anymore. So here's my message to Honda's executives. If you're watching, you had the most trusted name in motorcycling, and you traded it for global market share. You had loyal American customers who would have supported you through anything, and you told us we don't matter anymore. You had a reputation for building motorcycles that people could afford and depend on, and you threw it away for short-term profits and electric vehicle buzzwords. You didn't just abandon American riders, you abandoned everything Honda used to represent. And here's my message to American riders. You deserve better than what Honda is offering you now. You deserve motorcycles that are built for riders, not for global markets. You deserve companies that value your loyalty instead of taking it for granted. You deserve a motorcycle industry that understands what riding means to people like us. The good news is that this crisis is also creating opportunities. The used market is full of amazing motorcycles at reasonable prices as people dump their overpriced new purchases. Small manufacturers who actually care about American riders are gaining market share. Custom builders are thriving as riders look for alternatives to mass-produced mediocrity. And most importantly, the riding community is stronger than ever. We're the people who keep motorcycle culture alive, not the corporate executives who see us as profit margins on a spreadsheet. Honda's 76% profit plunge is just the beginning of their downfall in America. When you abandon your core customers to chase trends that don't understand your business, failure is inevitable. The motorcycle industry crisis of 2025 isn't just about sales numbers and profit margins. It's about the soul of motorcycling itself. And if we don't fight for that soul now, we're going to lose it forever. Honda showed us exactly where American motorcyclists rank in their priorities when they chose electric car investments over motorcycle parts availability, when they chose global volume over local dealers, when they chose corporate sustainability reports over the riders who made them great. Hit subscribe, ring that notification bell, and let me know in the comments. Are you done with manufacturers who don't respect American riders? Or do you think Honda can still turn this around? Because from where I'm sitting, Honda just showed us exactly what they think of American motorcycle culture. And it's not much. Thanks for watching, and remember, real riders support companies that support real riding. Honda used to be one of those companies. They chose not to be anymore. Time to find companies that actually want our business and understand what motorcycling means to America.